How to trade options online. I don't get into options trading. You definitely want to check out some other channels out there. I would just do a search on YouTube as a good place to start, but then you can go to your, if you deal with any particular bank, most of the banks have stock and options investment possibilities. I would go that route to begin with anyway. How can you buy silver or gold on contract and take delivery? Is it cheaper to do this rather than order from online? So basically, when you're talking about contracts, whenever you when you buy a contract, you're literally buying a future date to purchase that particular commodity. That's what these contracts are, but they don't ever take delivery. That's the way this works. If you read Jim Rogers' book, Hot Commodities, it actually explains all of this. But what I would do is physically go somewhere, or you can go online and actually buy the precious metals themselves. Just a side note that get the smaller denominations. I do suggest that. Here's a question. Do they have time to kill the $100 bill and eliminate cash in society? Yes. The way I see things going, the economy collapsing first, and then no one will trust the government after the collapse. You know what? Even during the Great Depression, people are more dependent on the government, actually. This would also wake up a lot of people to what our government is doing. Eliminating cash would be impossible. Sale to the people. They don't trust the government. I believe that people, for the most part, will be, especially the younger generations, will be in favor of a cashless society. They don't get it. They don't know. They just want to make it easier on themselves. And truthfully, having a credit card or having your Apple Pay system or any sort of digital system is technically easier. That's what really hooks them in. There's a double-edged sword here with that, obviously. Why would a cashless society be on the table, considering that this would mean that the government would have less options to generate growth with respect to interest rates, especially having the option to print and generate a negative rate? Okay, right here I just want to address something, and that is the fact that the governments don't necessarily care about your dollars, right? They have the printing press. They don't care. They can do whatever they want. They print up trillions of dollars, give it out to their friends. So, I hope you see where I'm going with that. Right here, cannot having cash contribute to an increased or decreased likelihood of an out-of-control inflation? Either way, I believe it doesn't matter, cash or not. It's all about how much they are expanding our money at the rate at. So all they can do is with their fractional reserve banking, they can expand it as much as they want, and they can create derivatives on top of that. There's a whole bunch of schemes. If tangible money such as silver or gold ever becomes a new currency, do you think this will mean that the per diem rate for work will be 1/10 of an ounce of silver? No, I don't really think that this will, unfortunately, will become a currency. I do see it as an asset. I do see silver and gold as an asset, as you may know. You may have heard me say many times, but I don't see it becoming a new currency simply because the bankers are in control, and they have maintained control for at least hundreds of years, and I don't see them letting go anytime soon. When will it be okay to get back into the stock market and mutual funds? For the foreseeable future, it's not a good idea in my eyes. So when, I don't know, but at least for the time being, there's no end in sight to this being a bad idea. They're going to introduce 5% VAT in my country, United Arab Emirates. Will that inflate the currency a little? It might, but I don't believe that our currencies are really valued based on anything real anymore. And, it's so fictional when you see such small factors change a currency so dramatically over time. We know that the US dollar is dead, but look at it. Over the past, let's say, year, maybe less than 2 years, we've seen it becoming worth more than it was prior, but it's not worth anymore. There's more debt now. There's more money printing now. There's more deficits. There's more everything bad, but yet the dollar's going up. Doesn't make any sense. But anyway, what you're asking here is how can I hedge against this? Try to get yourself out of the system altogether. That means, like I said before, you want the solar panels. If you live in the United Arab Emirates, You know, I'm sure you can get more sunlight than we do here in Canada, so you should get on that. That's one way that you can just get out of the system altogether. What's your opinion on the government-issued inflation rate statistics? It's the biggest joke you'll ever see. What you can do is, if you don't already know, or those who don't know, you just check out shadowstats.com for a more accurate description of inflation, of unemployment, and everything else. Could you explain derivatives? If you check out my main YouTube channel page, so you just type in the Money GPS into YouTube, find my channel itself, go down to the bottom and you will see the Money GPS eCourse. One of those videos is all about derivatives. It explains exactly what it is. So check that out. Or you can go to themoneygps.com/free eCourse, and that will explain it to you. It's in the description of all of my videos as well if you want the link. People say a lot that free market is the solution for a better economy. However, in the scenario of a completely free market, naturally the stronger corporations would obtain such a big portion of the economy that could be enable them to abuse their influence and in the end screw things over. In a socialist scenario, the ones doing all the abuse ain't the government, are the government. All in all, we begin to pick between the free market and socialism. Are we picking models that are flawed by design? Do you see an alternative? Greetings from Rio, currently occupied by the horrible combination of commies and crony capitalists. Yes, it's possible. Okay, greetings to you as well here from bitter cold Toronto. And what I would say is that we have never really had a completely free market that I'm aware of. They've been close in certain scenarios. Wherever you have more of a free market, you tend to have more prosperity. That's what I've seen. The more socialism, more communism. Just take Venezuela, for example, not doing well at all. That's what I see. But I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with that. But I would just definitely say that in any situation where you have free markets, you do have more liberty and more prosperity. The people of Switzerland generally view themselves as being very prosperous, and you can see that they have a lot of liberties. They're not perfect in any way, but that's just one example, and that's who I generally would point to in that situation. If you had $100,000 in the bank, what would you do to invest the money? Save yourself from an economic collapse. Garden, solar panels, drip irrigation, water catch system, well water, look for a spring nearby. I would have a water filter. I would have storable foods, big bags of rice. I would not need $100,000. I would basically fill the rooftop with as many solar panels as I can, the backyard as well. If you have that, if you live in a condo, you're not too in good shape. What else can you do? You know, if you do live in a condo, just grow sprouts indoors. You can grow all sorts of food indoors. That's one little thing you can do, but it does make sense. If you want with $100,000, you know, you can get into smaller real estate type investments, storage lockers, parking spaces, etc. What do you think will happen after the crash of the economy that you're predicting? And if you think the crash would build an economy and a monetary system that benefits us all? What happens after the crash? It's going to be a lot worse than what we have today. That's my opinion. What do you think will happen after the crash of the economy that you're predicting? What's going to happen is a new monetary system is going to be forced on us, but we'll still be using the same cash that we were once before, except it'll be backed by something like the IMF's SDR. Is Singapore really safe haven from the coming economic crash? Singapore has a very strong currency overall, I would say so. Their economy generally does better than a lot of others in Asia. If you research Jim Rogers, obviously a big bull on Singapore, but ultimately all of the dominoes will fall. Let's move into this. Does anyone know why QE doesn't cause inflation, or does it? And the effects have just been hiding from us. I read up on it, but I still don't really understand. Thanks in advance. The definition, to me, the definition of inflation is the expansion of the monetary supply. More currency in circulation, more inflation. The effects of more inflation are rising prices. So we've seen that every time they print money, QE1, 2, and 3, the stock market rose. and then it sort of trades in a, volatility up and down. But basically within, the more money they print, the more the stock market will continue to rise. You also see food prices rising. I personally have witnessed a serious food prices rising. It's been very dramatic. There's been a lot of currency entering the system, but a lot of it is also hidden from us. We know that the Federal Reserve printed 16 trillion, but you look at their balance sheet, not even close. There's more in the Money GPS eCourse. Actually, if you check that out, you'll see a video or two for you on this subject. Have you seen recently any data that would suggest that the U.S. economy is not in such bad shape? Any data that suggests that the U.S. economy is not in bad shape? There's a lot of it, not necessarily industry, but there's a lot of corporations there that will exist after the collapse. So these corporations, whether it's, I'm not even suggesting these are some of them, but let's say Google may exist 10, 20 years from now. These are type of things that are real ultimately, not their stocks real, but what they do is real. They provide services or businesses. They have those, and that's ultimately beneficial, some of them, beneficial to the economy. So, they have that. They have natural resources. There is real oil and everything else. They do have a very large population. Many of them want to work. So these are real things, but ultimately economically not doing very well. What's your take on which economy will go down the drain first, i.e. hyperinflationary scenario? They make the comment, man, very poor. I know it's already happening, but where will it be first? The EU seems to be really a weak link as far as major ones go. And I'm not necessarily that's going to be what falls first, but I do see the Euro-viral contagion. I'll repeat myself, the Euro-viral contagion that is a weak link in the global economy. You have very few countries within the EU that are supporting it. So a country like Greece is really weakening it, and then you don't hear about it for a little while, but that's not because they're not doing poorly. That's because they were given some bailout money, and that will keep them out of the news for some time. Japan can go for a little while longer, just destroying their economy and their currency entirely. That's their goal, and they'll do that. It's going to take a little bit of time, though. The US ultimately in the same situation. They're willing to go to the confetti territory. And then you have a lot of the developing nations who are weaker, which also could be first, but it's hard to tell really. But all the dominoes fall. It's a ripple effect. Who goes first, I think, is less important than the fact that who's really left standing, and I don't believe there will be many, if any. What would be the best way to keep money in? Convert it to gold, buy real estate, or diversify it? Yeah, diversify it, but not in the banking system. That's for sure. You want out of the paper assets at this time, and I would suggest that you basically hold on to real assets. Everything you can. Singapore seems to be good economically. How do you look upon their future? As I just mentioned previously, you can get into that. In the financial recession, I lost a lot of my retirement nest egg. In mutual funds, I really feel bad for you. You're not the only one. Unfortunately, many have. But gained it all back in 2011, then pulled it out, parked it in the GIC for 5 years now. Soon time to reinvest. Where would you put your money? 10 to 15 years from when I would retire. That way I see it. There's no safe assets under my mattress. All right. Thank you very much for those comments as well. Okay, what I would suggest is, of course, get your money out of that banking system and get into things that are real. People are always trying to chase the system. They're trying to figure out, how can I make money, or how can I have income when I retire? But if you just take it, zoom out for a second, and why do you need money in the first place? Think about this. I'm going to segue just for a moment here. One of the things that I like to do is just literally sit and think. Most people don't do this, and I literally sit there for long periods of time. Some would call it meditating. I'm just calling it thinking. I'm in front of my computer, I read a statistic, and then I stop and I just think. Why do I need money? Well, I gotta buy food, I have shelter to pay for, I have basic things that I need in my life. I need some clothes on my back, I need basic essentials. All right. What are the things I don't need? Well, I don't need this and that. Do I need the fastest internet connection? No, absolutely not. Do I need this or that? Anyway, basically go through and think of the things I don't need. Get rid of those. If you don't need it, get rid of it. If you have old clothes hanging around the house, you're never going to wear them again, get rid of them. Shed everything you can. If you can make a few bucks off of it, do it. If not, if you could just donate them, donate them. Go ahead. This is something that I have done personally, and it's been an excellent exercise, I assure you. So what I suggest and that people do is, number one, get out of all debt. That includes mortgages, that includes financing perhaps on your cars, your vehicles, whatever. Get out of as much debt as you possibly can. And then have things like solar panels, have things like the garden's drip irrigation, water catch system, all of these different things that basically make you self-sufficient. So all of a sudden, if you could reduce your expenses, I'll just make up some numbers, from $1,000 down to $200 a month, all of a sudden, $200 a month, you don't need to really be making much to be able to support your lifestyle. That's my suggestion to you. I hope you see where I'm going with that.